Chinese panelists, have you already shopped or witnessed your relatives shopped?
Well, it's a shame for me. I never have the skill to shop online.
To get the best deal. What about you, Mr. Huang?
I didn't this year, but I did last year.
Why not this year? Because it was too crowded last year?
No, I think it's overwhelmed by the U.S. Election. We're still consuming that outcome. Yeah.
Competing attention.
That's right.
That's true. But seriously, one important question is whether this specific Double 11 festival help us to understand better about the realities of the Chinese economy. How much power do people still have in terms of their consumption, Mr. Huang?
I think it's still quite a bit. And I read on news, for example, and for Jingdong, and at the lunchtime, it already exceeded last year's number by 78%. So the growth is still phenomenal. I'm pretty sure Alibaba's growth is also very strong. I was told it's probably may reach like a 40% growth compared to last year. So that is a very phenomenal growth. And lots of people suspected and they may reach some kind of ceiling or the growth may slow down, saturated. So far, it has not happened yet.
Right. We are 1 hour and a half away from the eventual destination of this Double 11 shopping day. So we'll still need to see the newest number. But for now, it's already quite impressive, Professor Liu.
Oh yes, pretty much so. So if you look at the figure last year, that really broke the hallmark of 100 billion RMB over one day. And as a matter of fact, one of the probes that the U.S. SEC was doing is that they were really doubtful. How did we achieve this figure? Were they cooking the book? But now it is the reality.
But how much does it say about the Chinese economy? Is this Double 11 shopping spree going to be exceptional, or it is one clear indicator of the status of the Chinese economy and people's desire to consume, Professor Liu?
I think now the Chinese e-commerce still has a long way to go to really to touch the ceiling.
For example, to convince people like you.
Yes, that's right. Well, and also if you compare the percentage of the online sales versus the total retail, it is still less than 13%. So, and also the people are getting more and more reliant on online purchase. And for me, I'm struggling to learn. And right now, they also have a lot room to improve. So actually, when they have a room to improve, that means there is a potential.
Right.
So in terms of delivery, in terms of sorting, in terms of the
We're
quality,
going to talk
warranty,
about some of these
etc.
issues later. Professor Bastin, how much does it say to you? The number, if it comes out soon, it's already quite impressive and such a big percentage increase compared to last year. About the real health, it is a real health indicator of the Chinese economy. As we always heard different sides of the story. Chinese economy getting much better and Chinese economy running into big problems. We almost heard the same kinds of message all at the same time every day these days. So what do you say?
Well, certainly it's a very optimistic note, and growth appears to be continuing, and growth was fairly spectacular last year. So, as the other panelists have said, that they've already exceeded their target, or the target of last year. Is it an indicator of the underlying health of the Chinese economy? I think it is some indicator. It's certainly not a bad thing. Shoppers this year appear to be looking for deeper cuts. I think that's the news, and growth has slowed. So it is a reflection perhaps of the slowdown of the Chinese economy, but it is a factor that Chinese consumer spending and economic growth may not necessarily be running in tandem, in sync. And I refer to a recent report by the Economic Intelligence Unit, a sister organization of The Economist, that predicted Chinese consumer spending until 2030 recently, which predicts growth in excess of the average economic growth. So I think it is a reflection of very, very healthy Chinese consumer spending trend.
Right.
Yes, even though there's underlying modest growth.
Okay. Well, you could see that the e-commerce company is trying to gear up all the ways in order to raise the enthusiasm among the consumers about how much they would like to spend on this Double 11 day. You see Kobe Bryant, you see David Beckham, being with them on the stage, trying to gear up this enthusiasm. You also see VR technologies, different kinds of new devices being used in order to arouse people's interest in more shopping. But the fundamental question, as we all know, Mr. Huang, is the jobs. Mm-hmm. Whether e-commerce in China are creating jobs, creating good quality jobs, and whether this is likely to make up to the loss of jobs as a result of its competition against the traditional retailers. Mr. Huang.
I think this is an excellent question. No doubt it creates jobs, but not necessarily good quality jobs, because what we see is e-commerce, similar as other advanced technologies, seems to polarize the workforce. We see that lots of people working on the delivery side, they're riding on their bicycle or tricycle on the delivery, and the other side of it is the people who really knows the computer programming skills. Those are high-end, high-paid jobs, and then we see the polarization of these two in the workforce. So it does create a lot of jobs, maybe at the expense of the conventional retail jobs as well, and also doesn't seem to have the middle one, so it polarized the workforce. I think that this is not a challenge and uniquely faced for China. I think it's pretty much global.
It is global. We see that in so many elections in recent years. Professor Liu, it is not even the lowest land of the job. Let's just say the delivery men and women. Their jobs, if we were listening closely to the background earlier, the number of people that are dealing with those jobs can be reduced much sharply, because they give a number earlier that the efficiency has improved, and therefore the number of people needed has certainly reduced. So two extremes, like Mr. Huang just mentioned about the kinds of jobs, and also the increase of the efficiency and its impact even on the lower end of jobs.
I think there are three syndromes that people are still worried about the e-commerce, and number one is the job creation issue and also the quality of the job, because you need really to take a larger picture of the equation, because it does really create job for so many delivery boys, but in the meantime it wastes the conventional brick and mortar type of job. And the other is the counterfeits, because still people think that those vendors are taking the advantage what is assumed as the invisibility online. So counterfeits are still very rampant over the Chinese e-commerce. And the other is the service quality that is still in question because of the lack of training over those service people, including those delivery workers. So
you are saying you do have a concern about the quality of jobs and the number of jobs that can be created as a result of this. Professor Bastin?
Well, yes, I echo those concerns. I think we have to remember that there are around 14,000 brands on sale during this festival. And obviously their sales are doing well, they're increasing. I mean, it's estimated if you don't feature in this event, you could lose annual income of up to about 10%. So those branded goods, so we're talking about Nike, Adidas, Levi's, obviously digital technologies, Apple, iPhone, those are doing very, very well. And there are jobs associated, obviously, with those branded goods providers and those industries. So I think we have to balance the two in terms of the e-commerce industry and the branded goods industries that are benefiting so much from this festival.
That, of course, is one factor, that is the quality of jobs. The other thing is how people are shopping these days. Where are they shopping? How do they shop? One feature of this year's event is that Alibaba, which is a company that we all know these days, is going mobile in a big way. Take a look at this numbers. Last year, Alibaba generated around $14.3 billion in gross merchandise volume during Singles Day. Mobile transactions contributed to around 69%. This year, Alibaba says so far more than 85% of early purchases had been made on mobile phones. Wow. What a dramatic increase. Does that say much about the future of China's e-commerce?
Yes, it does. And it looks like with the smartphone going more and more popular, And with the smartphone, people seem to be able to shop and anytime, anywhere they want. So this is going to be and bring the e-commerce more popular in China.
The most important thing is once it is on the smartphone,
Yeah.
there are a lot of other things that can come together with this double Singles Day.
That's right. I think they also have a better services, and we see in this year, I see some applications and compare your online shopping price with offline shopping price. And so this is a new phenomenon I didn't see last year, for example. Another one is we see Alibaba and also Jingdong, for example, they both push and the e-commerce and from urban cities actually go to the rural area. So that's another growth. Perhaps this is a reflect, why the growth is so phenomenal, so high. But on the other hand, go back to your previous question, whether this is indicator for the overall economy, which is hard to tell because, and as Professor Liu said, if e-commerce only take about 13% of the overall and the retails, they can go 40% growth, maybe and purely at the expense of the traditional retail business. So the overall may or may not grow. So this is hard to tell.
It's very hard to have the number until the very end of the year, I guess.
Correct.
That's the only possibility. Professor Bastin, how much does the smartphone shopping experience is changing the landscape of both shopping for the customers, but also the possibilities of innovation, application innovation, in a way, for the Chinese consumers' future?
Oh, it's almost revolutionary change. I mean, we often use the term m-commerce now to represent this very, very new form of shopping, not just e-commerce. And in terms of technological innovation, and we've seen that with Chinese service providers, obviously with Weibo, particularly with WeChat, the opportunities are virtually limitless. And those younger generations who are perhaps more modern, the heavy consumers now, heavy shopping consumers, they're so comfortable with this.
Right.
And these applications are international and global. So I think it really is changing the face of shopping globally for Chinese consumers with international opportunities to participate in this festival as well. So huge change.
Right. You mentioned an interesting word, WeChat. Certainly that's a very important app being used here so widely and even now in the rest of the world. But that does indicate a competition between Alibaba and Jingdong. Jingdong spent a lot of energy on how to correlate with WeChat, while Alibaba has its own paying system. Mr. Huang, what kind of situation are we witnessing this year?
I think it's, I see it's competition become more intense this year compared to last year.
That sounds exciting.
Yes, it is exciting. Compared to Jingdong's, as I mentioned, I check on the news and by lunchtime, it growth is already 78%. If they maintain that growth rate and then to the end of the day, so that means that Jingdong probably grow much faster than Alibaba. Of course, Alibaba's base is a lot bigger than Jingdong, but that says, and then with maybe WeChat and Tencent's help, Jingdong can catch up, acquire bigger market share, which is very good and for the consumers.
Right. BAT has always been a word that we used earlier, indicating three of the biggest and newest technology companies that include WeChat's home company, which is Tencent, and also Alibaba, which is the A in the word. And therefore, are we going to see a new situation, new nuances of the competition among the three, particularly between Tencent and Alibaba, the biggest now?
On the e-commerce side, I still think right now the Alibaba is the dominant factor because its base is so big. And we see the Jingdong actually catch up quite fast, but still now than in total volume, still much smaller compared to Alibaba. But they run a different business model as well. So it's kind of happy to see Jingdong can continue to grow, and that nobody want a monopoly situation and happens.
Professor Liu, what do you make of it?
Well, from the economic point of view, duopoly or triopoly is really the best structure that can stabilize competition. But so far, when Ali is still in a dominant position, 7 times more than the JD.com, so this structure is rather questionable so far. So the GD is still burning money, but Ali has been making tons of money so far. So I think now before really the anti-monopoly law can really turn in to probe this question, and I think the market structure need to be reinvented so that better competition will give better service to consumers.
And finally, before we go, I do want to invite your insights and your visions into this, gentlemen, which is, at this moment, Alibaba is a really powerful company, not just in China, but also all over the world. It's really becoming a legend in terms of e-commerce, given China's huge consumer base. But the issue is that one business model will always, in a new age, run out of steam quite soon. The question is, well, Alibaba doing so well over the past few years, including this year on e-commerce, even Double 11 Festival. What's next? I think this is a question that we always have. While we are celebrating, we should always think about the future. Professor Bastin, I want to invite your insights first.
I think what's next for Alibaba is, I think, an even more ambitious international expansion push. I mean, Jack Ma has pledged that by 2025, more than half their sales will come from outside China. And I think what they will try to be doing is take their business model to a certain extent to the UK and to Europe. And I think what they will try to do is, in effect, launch Singles Day in these markets and attract increasingly UK and European consumers. I think that'll be a big part of their strategy very soon.
Right. Will internationalization of Alibaba's platform necessarily going to help the company to be sustainable in its business model?
Yes, I think the two-way expansion, one way in China, you spread it to third-tier and fourth-tier cities, and then even to the rural area, and globally there is also large room. But I mean, normally for Chinese companies, they face two challenges to determine their fate. One is the eternal power struggle, and the other is the government. So governance and government are really a determining factor as how far they can go.
Of course, Jack Ma and Mr. Huang, you know very well that he earlier proposed a certain kinds of WTO kind of platform for the e-commerce companies around the world, and also what he said, the middle and small enterprises. Obviously, there have been so many political changes over the past few months as a result of elections, different countries. But Mr. Huang, business model sustainability.
I think what Alibaba is doing, in addition to two professors that has been mentioned, I think they're also doing quite a lot of things on the business model side. For example, previously they're 100% platform company. Now they also expand to offline business as well, and then also own a piece of like supply chain. So more or less, and in a way,
more
similar.
Diversified.
Yeah, more diversified, more similar as a Jingdong as a business model. So and also diversify into other business like media, etc. So we see they're growing almost all the directions,
right.
For example. And so it's right now it looks like they're expanding in multiple ways.